The Phantom of Hallow Creek. In a remote town nestled deep within the Appalachian Mountains, there was a place the locals called Hallow Creek. It was an unassuming name for a place with such a sinister reputation. The creek ran through the forest, surrounded by thick trees that blocked out the sunlight, making it perpetually dark and eerie. The townsfolk rarely spoke of Hallow Creek, except in hushed whispers. They all knew the legend, the tale of the Phantom of Hallow Creek, a vengeful spirit that haunted the area for centuries. It was said that anyone who dared to venture too close to the creek after sunset would never be seen again. The legend began long ago with a woman named Eliza, who lived in a small cottage by the creek. She was known for her beauty and kindness, but she harbored a secret, a deep, burning love for a man named Thomas, who was betrothed to another. Heartbroken, Eliza was consumed by jealousy and, in a fit of rage, she cursed the couple. The night of their wedding, a terrible storm struck the town. Thunder roared, and lightning split the sky as if the heavens themselves were angered. The next morning, Thomas and his bride were found dead in the creek, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. Eliza was never seen again, but the townsfolk began to hear whispers and sobs near the creek at night, and some claimed to see a shadowy figure lurking by the water's edge. Over the years, many who ventured near the creek at night met the same fate as Thomas and his bride. Their bodies were found in the water, eyes wide open in fear, with no sign of a struggle. The townspeople believed Eliza's spirit had become the Phantom of Hallow Creek, cursed to haunt the area forever, luring unsuspecting souls to their doom. One summer, a group of teenagers decided to test the legend. They were thrill-seekers, eager to prove the old folks wrong. Despite the warnings from their elders, they made a pact to spend the night at Hallow Creek. They brought camping gear, flashlights, and enough food and drinks to last until morning. To them, it was just a harmless adventure, a chance to laugh in the face of superstition. They set up camp near the creek, lighting a fire to keep the darkness at bay. As the night wore on, they began to tell ghost stories, each one trying to outdo the last. But as the clock struck midnight, the mood shifted. The air grew colder, and an unnatural silence fell over the forest. The only sound was the faint trickling of the creek. Suddenly, they heard it, a soft, mournful wail carried by the wind. It started as a distant whisper but grew louder, more desperate, as if the very trees were crying out in anguish. The teenagers froze, their bravado fading as the wailing seemed to surround them, coming from all directions. "Do you hear that?" one of them whispered, his voice trembling. "It's just the wind," another replied, though his eyes darted nervously around the dark forest. But then they saw her, a figure standing at the edge of the creek, her long white dress billowing in the wind. Her hair, black as night, cascaded down her back, obscuring her face. She stood perfectly still, her presence unnerving in its silence. Who are you?" one of the girls called out, her voice cracking. The figure slowly turned to face them, and the firelight illuminated her features. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes, those eyes, were hollow, black pits that seemed to absorb the light around them. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, a blood-curdling scream erupted, echoing through the forest like the cry of a banshee. The teenagers scrambled to their feet, but the figure was already moving toward them, gliding across the ground as if she were floating. The temperature dropped further, and their breaths came out in visible puffs of air. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped, with nowhere to run. One by one, they felt a cold, clammy hand grip their hearts, squeezing tighter and tighter until they could no longer breathe. The last thing they saw before darkness consumed them was the figure's hollow eyes, watching with cold indifference as they fell to the ground, lifeless. The next morning, the townsfolk found their bodies by the creek, their faces twisted in terror, eyes wide open as if they had seen something too horrifying to comprehend. The legend of the Phantom of Hallow Creek had claimed more victims, and the town once again fell into a hushed silence, the warning clear: stay away from Hallow Creek, or suffer the same fate. But the most chilling part of the story is this: on nights when the wind blows just right, you can still hear the faint wailing near Hallow Creek, as if the phantom is searching for her next victims. And if you ever find yourself in those woods, remember, no one who hears her cry lives to tell the tale.